we board La Orient, our Dahabiya in Esna. We'll be spending the next 5 nights on board, traveling from Esna to Aswan. A Dahabiya is a shallow-bottom barge-like vessel with 2 lateen sails. They've been around for thousands of years. Similar craft are depicted on the walls of tombs of the pharaohs. Until the 1870s, the Dahabiya was the standard for tourist travel up and down the Nile. Today, in order to make the trip on schedule, a small towboat pulls the motorless Dahabiya along, with a little help from the sails if the winds are friendly. We settle into our cabin, one of 6, and watch the sunset over the Nile for the first time. Promptly at 7:30, dinner is served on the upper deck. In the morning, we wake up at El Kab, ready to explore. Here there are rock-cut tombs dating to the early 18th dynasty, 1550 to 1295 BCE. One of the most interesting tombs is that of Ahmose. He served in the military under several 18th dynasty pharaohs. These inscriptions on his tomb detail his many military campaigns and has proven to be a source of valuable information about this period. The tomb of Pahari, a mayor of El Kab and Esna during the 18th dynasty, is inscribed with prayers that are one of the earliest evidences of a belief in an afterlife. Also depicted in the tomb are scenes of everyday life. These tombs are very simple, an arched corridor leading to a wall with a niche in it. And tourists through the ages have left their mark here too. Then back to our Dahabiya. The motorless Dahabiya provide a good platform for watching Nile bird life. This riverside home belonged to George Clark, the archaeologist who explored El Kab. He died in 1926 and is buried in the courtyard of the house. The crew hoists the front sail. Dahabiyas are popular with the French tourists. 7 of our fellow passengers are French. La Orient's upper deck is a good place to relax and where meals are served. More Nile bird life and fishermen working hard for their catch. It's time for lunch. It's rustic and delicious Egyptian cuisine. Now with that under our belts, we're ready for our next temple at Edfu. We tie up at the town pier. Sulla negotiates a pony cart to take us to the Edfu Temple. We'll shake down our lunch. I feel sorry for the horse with all the cars and motorcycles. And the passengers, driver, and horse all make it safely to our destination. We are at the Edfu Temple. It was built during the Ptolemaic period, 237 to 57 BCE, and is one of the best preserved temples in Egypt. Over the centuries, the temple became buried under desert sand and river silt. Only the tops of the temple pylons were visible by 1798, when the temple was identified by a French expedition. Through the first pylon is a paved forecourt, surrounded on 3 sides by 32 columns. 2 statues of Horus guard the entry to the hypostyle hall. 3 columns on each side flank the entrance to the hypostyle hall. The outer hall has 2 rows of 3 columns on each side. The reliefs are exceptionally well preserved. This proves that the ancient Egyptians had Wi-Fi. Here Horus is giving the pharaoh an ankh, representing eternal life. The inner hypostyle hall also has 2 rows of 3 columns on each side. There's a passageway between the outer wall and the inner sanctum. These projections were lion-headed gargoyles. The walls of the passageway are covered with finely carved hieroglyphics. Then we head back to the forecourt, and then through the first pylon. Find our horse cart and driver waiting for us. Sala says we need to stop at the market for some fresh fruit. It's mango season. And we're back to Lorient at the town pier. Tonight the crew has a surprise for us, a beach party barbecue. We tie up along the shore of the Nile and party. In the morning, we're visiting Bisha Island to see how the Egyptians live on the river. Tie up to the riverbank. That's a nice stand of corn in the field. There's a small village that we're headed for. The village is well worn, but has modern conveniences. Bananas are the cash crop on the high ground. Corn and tomatoes are grown on the floodplain. Sala says he has some friends here he'd like us to meet. This very nice couple served us tea and cookies while we talked about their life on the Nile. Then it's back to l'Orient. Our guide Sala loves to have his picture taken. There are several dahabiyas out today. They travel during the day, and the big river cruisers travel at night. Our next stop is Gebel el-Silsila, a sandstone quarry. Almost all the great temples got their sandstone from here, including Karnak, Luxor, and the Ramses III mortuary temple. We tie up to the riverbank, another site the big cruisers can't visit. This temple was built in a cave or an old quarry shaft about 1300 BCE. It has 5 openings cut into the cliff. Here's something we haven't seen before, Demotic writing, which replaced Hieratic script about 700 BCE. And here is yet another type of writing, Coptic, which was used by the early Christians. And of course, here's some more graffiti. The temple was used as a Christian church. Note the painted cross. The pharaoh presents lotus blossoms to Thoth, the god who gave the gift of writing to the Egyptians. South of the temple are these royal stelae. The first is dedicated to Ramses V, who reigned from 1147 to 1143 BCE. The second is dedicated to Shishong I, who reigned from 945 to 924 BCE. This is the narrowest point on the Upper Nile. There are more quarries on the east bank. This is how they quarried huge blocks that were required for the monumental building projects. Trenches were cut with iron chisels and wooden mallets, and the bottom was broken free with wedges. The next problem was moving the block so it could be loaded on a barge. Ropes were threaded through holes cut in the rocks, and the stone was dragged to a pier at the bottom of this slope. Based on what we've seen of the temples at Luxor, a lot of stone was moved this way. Near the quarry, there are 32 rock chapels cut into the cliff face. They have a great view. We're really glad that we didn't opt for this kind of Nile cruise. We would have missed out on some of the great experiences that the small Dahabiya provided. Remember all the great fruit at Edfu Market was ready for us when we got back to the La Orient. In the morning, we wake up and we are underway. Our destination this morning is Kom Ombo and its unusual temple. We tie up at the town pier. Kom Ombo is a double temple dedicated to two gods and symmetric along the main axes. The temple was built in the Ptolemaic period, 180 to 47 BCE. Some additions were made later during the Roman period. Much of the temple has been destroyed by the Nile, earthquakes, and builders scavenging stones. The wall and gate leading into the temple courtyard was built by Ptolemy XII, who reigned from 80 to 51 BCE. He was the father of the famous Cleopatra VII. The temple has endured a lot of damage, but what remains are some really great inscriptions and reliefs. The forecourt is surrounded by columns. They're decorated with scenes of the Roman Emperor Tiberius, who reigned from 14 to 37 in the current era, making offerings to the Egyptian gods. The inner hypostyle hall was built by Ptolemy VIII in the 2nd century BCE. The walls of the hypostyle hall are covered with scenes of the gods confirming Ptolemy's rulership over Egypt. Here the goddesses of the upper and lower Nile crown Ptolemy, while Horus presents the staff of power to him. Fragrances and oils are offered to the two gods of the temple, Horus the falcon-headed god and Sobek with the crocodile head. This is the Egyptian calendar. It's a solar calendar with 365 days, divided into 3 seasons: flood, emergence, and harvest. Each season has 4 months with 30 days each, and an additional 5 days at the end. In protected areas, the original paint is still vivid. This panel depicts surgical instruments, including scalpels and forceps. This is the chapel of the hearing ear on the back outside wall of the temple. Here the common people could pray to the gods. In this beautiful relief, Hathor is depicted with a lion head. The engineering skills of the ancient Egyptians continue to amaze us. This is the well of the temple. We find our way out through the hypostyle hall. The pharaohs always signed their work. This is the cartouche of Ptolemy IX. Pretty amazing place. It gives you a glimpse of the life, beliefs, and politics of ancient Egypt. Now a quick stop at the Crocodile Museum. Sobek is the crocodile-headed god associated with fertility and military prowess, and a protector, especially against the dangers posed by the Nile. These are but a few of the hundreds of mummified crocodiles found around the temple. Then back to the Dahabiya. The crew scrambles to get underway. The steersman mans the tiller. The crewman on the towboat readies the tow line. Tonight, dinner is an Egyptian favorite, pigeon. The crew has one more opportunity to entertain us. In the morning, we've tied up to Tuweza Island. The chef is serving breakfast in a cow pasture. Farmer comes by to check on us and his cows. We spot some bird life. Then it's time to go. The crew has hoisted the sail. This is our last leg, sailing on the L'Orient. The steersman poses for us. As we get closer to Aswan, there's a lot more boat traffic. We are at the Dahabiya pier just north of Aswan.